Hi, everyone. My name is Ellen Head, and I'm the Senior Director of Development for Special Olympics Virginia and the Law Enforcement Torch Run Specialist. I'm also the liaison for Torch Run to our program. I've been asked to put together a presentation to share with you all about the virtual Torch Run that we hosted here in Virginia in 2020. So bear with me one second. I'm going to share my screen with you to show you some information that I put together that hopefully can help your program do a virtual torch run in the future. Because while hopefully the pandemic will soon be winding down, we in Virginia and all of our torch run leadership here in the state feel that this is a great model to keep in perpetuity at our program, since we received so much positive feedback around having a virtual option when participating with the torch run, because that way officers that may not be able to make a specific date and time for a run based on their schedule can still support the program but financially and also just in participation. And this was a really great way to have community members, schools, our local program show their support for law enforcement and for the torch run movement by participating, but doing it when was convenient for them. So because of that, it essentially was one of the most successful torch run that we have ever hosted. Okay. All right. So in 2020, we hosted our virtual torch run during the same time frame when we would have typically held our in-person torch run leading up to our summer games at the University of Richmond. So our summer games would have been on the weekend of June 13th. So we decided to host the event for the week leading up to when that would have been. So we began on Monday, June 8th, and then we ended the event with an online celebration on June 13th. We learned, and this was also strengthened over the course of the year as we did more virtual events, that a week and no more is really the optimal amount of time for activation for a virtual event. Obviously, you can roll it out earlier for registration to get people signed up, doing some early fundraising. But as far as activity, there's fatigue if it's longer than a week. And because, if you go to another Monday, it's like, oh, I did this last Monday. It's not unique. It's not necessarily fun anymore. And we also decided to wait to actually open up the activity portion until a Monday, since a lot of people on the weekend, especially a Sunday, they may not be looking at their emails as much. And they may not be ready to kind of start the week and the week's activity. So that's why we waited until the Monday to do that. So here's a quick timeline of how we rolled out this event and the trends that you can see how when people registered and when funds were raised. We didn't launch it until May 8th. Obviously, a little bit before that, we were thinking about and planning on what we were going to be doing for this event. That said, it's still pretty late. We only launched about a month before the event kicked off. And obviously that was because we didn't know what was going on in the world. Everybody thought the pandemic would be a lot shorter than it wound up being. But then we realized pretty quickly that regardless of how long the pandemic would be, we're not going to have the ability to have an in-person torch run in June, but we still needed to do something. So we just needed to rip the Band-Aid off and just go with an all virtual event. So we made that decision pretty early. I think we were one of the earliest, if not the earliest program to make the call on that. We actually did that very much in conjunction with our summer games, since they do go hand in hand. And we just put a lot of ideas together, and we did a major push on this event, since we actually thought this would be our only virtual event and we would be able to go back to in-person fundraisers but it turned out just to be our first virtual event. But as you can see, we launched in May, and over the course of the month, we gained more and more people as we got closer. In fact, we upped our goal a couple times, which I don't think we've ever done something like that before, because we didn't know how this was going to go, and it went a lot better than we had hoped. So we were very lucky in that. But it does follow along with some of the similar trends that you will see with P2P events, where so much is done in the week or so leading up to the event and event week. People are laser focused on that goal. When people registered, they registered via what our registration portal here that we use for like polar plunges, our plane pull, and a lot of other events here at Special Olympics Virginia, which is Classy, which I do know a lot of other programs use as well. And this is what it looked like. So they could register here, and there was a lot of information about what the event was right here on the Classy page. Part of the reason was at this time, we're actually going through a big website redesign for not just Torch Run, but for all of Special Olympics Virginia. So we didn't have the ability to put all this information on the website at the time. So for this year, we're actually putting a lot more and utilizing our website more for our 2021 event. But in 2020, we put everything on our Classy page. Once everyone registered, they received an email that had what we call a virtual run pack that explained what the next steps of the event were. So here in Virginia, for the most part, we really wanted to keep the event simple, just because doing some research on virtual events, and we just realized simple is best. It's easier for us, especially since we were working from home at that point still. And we just wanted to make sure that things were simple for people to understand a virtual event, since people really, this is their first foray into doing that. So we decided that we were going to make our goal 1,900 miles, because that's typically the mile amounts that our officers will run from across the state to converge on Richmond in the central part of Virginia to come to our summer games. So we thought that would be a great idea for a hashtag and also a goal. So the first step, we had people register on Classy, and they had a couple of registration options. They could register for $25 and receive a 2020 Torch Run t-shirt. We'd already purchased a lot of Torch Run shirts up front at that point, and we wanted to make sure people got them, and we wanted to recoup our investment on that. So there was that option, and we, at that point, we mailed them out from our office because we had a lot in stock. We had admin staff going into our main office to take care of some bills and things like that, and they had the time and the ability to do that. Moving forward, we will have our shirt vendor, Will Enterprises. They will be doing that for us. And there was also a registration option to register without a t-shirt, in case someone already had purchased a Torch Run t-shirt, because we already had them out at this point for a few months, or if someone just didn't want a shirt, that wasn't their thing. So, and that was for a $20 price point. And it was important for us to have a registration fee for this, since this was going to be very much a fundraiser and not just an activity. So once they registered, then they had the ability to start fundraising, because this was through Classy, and they get a fundraising page when they do that. We were encouraging everyone to get to the $100 level, so raise another 25 or 30 more dollars, and then at that point they would get a commemorative medal, so their finisher medal for finishing this race. And we were very excited by it. One of our athletes, who actually designed the 2021 Torch Run shirt, but he designed this, and he echoed a design for a challenge coin that we had made, because last year, 2020, was Virginia Torch Run's 35th anniversary. So between the time they registered We wanted them to fundraise so they could get that medal and maybe do more, but then also we wanted them to train. So at this point, we'd already started a virtual fitness Facebook page for our athletes and others to have an activity during the pandemic and to keep them safe. And this was our first foray into virtual fitness, which we did even more here in Virginia over the course of the past year. So we were encouraging people to join that virtual fitness page on Facebook to connect with our athletes, and then also get some really great training ideas and health ideas from sponsors, staff members, and fellow athletes as well. So on the week of June 1st, we sent an email out where further information was given, and we gave everyone, and you'll see pictures of it later on, a downloadable, printable race bib that they could fill out to show how many miles that they were planning on running, walking, or biking, or whatever, kayaking. We had some of that activities the week of Torch Run week. Then we also sent out that week the information on how to join the run club that we set up on Strava, which is a miles tracking run club app that we found to be the best for what we wanted to do. We really liked this group because people could see what other group members were doing, and we had a lot of athletes join that. So they were really giving a lot of, it's called kudos in there to people for doing a great run, and it was found to be very inspirational. So Strava, in that's you can log your miles. So you just, click on there and you say, okay, I'm starting my walk, I'm starting my run. You just, say what type of activity you're doing. And then when you're done, you shut it off and it automatically uploads your activity to the app. And then, so we were keeping track of it on the back end to see how many miles people were using. And we were encouraging people to flood social media with pictures and with their activity that week, and using the hashtag 1900 for SOVA. And it was actually the most successful hashtag that we've ever rolled out, and people were really getting behind it. So then once Saturday rolled around, that's when we stopped tracking the activity, and we had an amazing virtual event which showed the lighting of our cauldron, since it would have been when it was going to be lit for our summer games. And we were lucky to have an officer from the University of Richmond meet one of our athletes who's a relative of one of our staff members and do a socially distant and safe torch lighting still at the University of Richmond, which was really exciting. And we just did a big celebration, and a celebration of Torch Run, celebration of Special Olympics. And then we ended it with a dance party with our athletes. So athletes and officers could still connect that way virtually, and people really enjoyed that. And we, the video was very pre-produced by one of our staff members, but there was obviously there's some live components to it, such as a dance party, and we streamed it on Facebook Live. Here's a general overview of the event. When all was said and done, we raised almost $95,000, which was really amazing, especially when you see the breakdown. As I mentioned, there were registration fees, and we did get, over 16,000 from that. But the rest, which was almost 80,000, came from P2P fundraising, which was truly amazing. Here you could see one of our officers here holding the race bib, and Sophie, she had pledged that she was going to run 50 miles over the course of the week for Special Olympics Virginia. One of my favorite race bibs was actually one of our athletes who she kept crossing out what she was going to do because she kept just smoking that, and which apparently was true across the board, because we definitely ran way much further than 1,900 miles, so much so that for our 2021 event, our goal is 22,000 miles, one for every athlete that's in the program. So we had 67 teams register, and it didn't need to be a team fundraiser, but obviously things are more fun when you do it with a group, even a distant group. And we had a total of 687 participants. And you can see the breakdown here Some people just, almost about 100 people just wanted to participate. They didn't want a t-shirt, but the vast majority of people did want that t-shirt because they probably hadn't gotten it already. And each person raised about $100, which was really exciting. Obviously, there's some that didn't raise any. As you could see here, when we took that out, the average went up a bunch more. This is the breakdown of how what groups participated in this event. We opened it up to everyone because, like I said, we thought this was going to be the only virtual fundraiser we had. So we just pushed our whole entire database. So as you can see here, we had 20 general teams. So that was, say, for example, my family, when we just signed up to do something for Special Olympics, we would fall into that bucket. I'm going to skip over Torch Run. I'll go to that last. We had area teams, so our local athletes in their programs. We had 18 different athlete groups choose to participate, and you'll see here, and then also with the school teams, a collaborative split. Anytime our local area programs or our unified schools participate in events with Special Olympics Virginia, we do split funds with them so they can go towards some of the funds can go specifically towards their area needs, and the same thing with our unified program. And we did even have, with schools closed, we did have 3 schools decide to participate as well. As you can see with the numbers here, we had 26 different Torch Run teams, which and then there was 28 agencies that even participated. We actually feel that these numbers are lower than they would typically be, and probably what we will see this year, just because if everyone recalls what May and June were like in the world, even outside of the pandemic, with civil unrest. In addition, going on, our officers were very overtaxed here in Virginia and everywhere else in the country as well, with managing things in regards to the pandemic and regards to protests and things of that nature. So there was less participation that we saw, but we feel that this year it will be vastly different with the event. But we were still very, very excited that we had so much participation. We had almost 200 members of our law enforcement Torch Run still have the ability to participate in this event as a runner. So just some further stats. We had a bunch of people that just decided to register, get their t-shirt, and that was it, which was great. And a good decision for us to do the registration fee because we were still able to capture some funds raised by those folks. And then you could see how many people we had reached the dollar amount to get one of the awesome medals that we had for the event. So 27% of fundraisers earned a medal. But we did have some participants that raised way more than $100. And as you can see, our highest fundraiser raised over $5,000. This is just some of the activity on the Strava Run Club that we put together. As you can see, 342. So about half of the participants decided to join our run club. And so we only were able to track miles for those that participated. So about half of the people ran over 6,000 miles. So we probably ran over 12,000 miles. And I shouldn't just say run, walk, bike, whatever type of activity that was okay, mile tracking activity. For our 2021 event, we think that we may also add for people that do not want to use Strava. I know that some other programs, when speaking with them last year and helping them develop their virtual Torch Run, they had some hesitance about using an app that tracks your location and things like that. As you can see over here, it does that. So we may just add also a manual form for people to be honest and say, I walked 5 miles or I biked 100 miles or something like that, and then combine the two. And we were very big on updating over the course of the week where we were at with our various goals. We feel a lot of the success of the event came with keeping our athletes in the front of the event. We had 13 athletes actively being involved with helping to get our torch run and our community very motivated to participate with this event. Here in Virginia, we have something called an athlete activation team, which is similar to our global messengers, which I know that most states do have, but it's for athletes that may not be speech givers, but they still want to help the program and do things in different ways. So maybe just do like a meet and greet or make some videos or just take some pictures for us. So we had 13 athletes of that group decide that they wanted to help with that. So you'll see some different ways on how our athletes helped out. When a runner reached $75, they earned a special high five from one of our athletes, and we kept rotating that. And then you can see, here's an example of that with this picture right here of Elizabeth. We also sent out some registration push emails that told some really great stories and showed some really awesome videos about our athletes to really encourage people to participate, reminding them why we are doing this. And we also had a bunch of our athletes create some video content for social media to encourage people to participate with the event. We also had some of our athletes do some health and fitness in our virtual fitness page on Facebook and remind people that they should participate in this event as well. And then on our special celebration, we had one of our athletes who many people have met since he's been a keynote speaker at some torch run events before and has been the face of our polar plunge and plane pull over the past year or more down here, Daniel Morales. He was the MC of that event. He's a truly, truly talented young man. And he actually, even though he's been in our program, his talents were brought to light through torch run since he became so close with one of our agencies at such a young age. And they made sure that we knew how exceptional he was. We also made sure, since this was the virtual torch run, this is a torch run event, we wanted to have our officers out in front of this event as possible. Obviously, as I mentioned before, we didn't have as many opportunities as we would have liked because of everything going on in the world, but we still had a lot of officers still take time to create a lot of content for us. So we had some specific videos made to encourage registration. We also had a lot of specific videos made to encourage that showed their participation during the week. A lot of those were made prior, so we had them ready to roll. So they were a little just planned. We had some planned photo shoots as well that we did, very distant and very appropriate, as you can see, with the masks and things like that here. We also did some torch lighting videos that we shared that week as well. So we're still very grateful that many of our torch run agencies were able to assist us with that to keep law enforcement right in the front of this event. We put a lot of marketing efforts into this. We really pushed this on our entire database. So we did some email pushes, as you can see for an example here. We also utilized our texting abilities, and we targeted our entire database. And then we sent other things to registered runners. And then we also sent some motivational emails to registered participants throughout the entire event to really focus on why we were having this event and why this event is necessary. We did a lot on social media because obviously virtual event, this is really the best way to get the word out at this point since we were all very much locked down last June. And you can see the impressions that we received on here. By far, Facebook did the best on here. And we did put a little bit of money towards some paid reach, which helped out. And as you can see, we always break this out separately because we have found over the course of the year, athlete Daniel Morales, who you saw his picture earlier, who was kind of our face for a lot of our virtual events and a lot of Torch Run events. When he is involved, we get a lot of impressions, and this has gone up through the course of the year because he's getting quite the following because he's just so exceptionally talented this way and then also on the playing field. We had a lot of our TV partners throughout the state cover this event in some way, shape, or form. So we were lucky to be able to leverage those relationships for this as well. So here's my contact information, and I'll leave this up here for a second. And I'm very happy to help any program with their virtual Torch Run. Like I said, in 2021, so this year, we've actually started to work on our Torch Run for this year, and it will also be virtual. It was very important to our Torch Run leadership that if our athletes aren't fully back on the playing field and can't participate in certain events, that they shouldn't see Torch Runners go about their business as normal. So our Torch Run will be virtual to a certain extent this year. We will have this option for anyone, our athletes, the community, to register once again on Classy and raise funds and awareness through the exact same model that we did last year. It worked out so successfully. The whole old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But we have let our Torch Run agencies know that if they are interested in hosting an in-person run, that they're welcome to do so. We do know that many, if not most, if not all, of our first responders in the state are vaccinated. So obviously it's a little bit safer for them to do so. And then, they're very aware of, what the recommendations are as far as social distancing and masking. We're all very good at this after a year into it. So if this is something that they're interested in doing, they can organize something just for their agency to do during the course of that week. So we're not going to be doing state organized or regionally organized runs, and this is the start and this is the end, and go to this water stop and this, that, and the other thing. But each agency can do that, and they will just still register for the virtual Torch Run so they can get their shirt. That's the way they'll get their shirt, and then participate very similar to last year. So we're very excited. We're hoping to grow off the event last year and do well this year. But I'm very happy to assist anyone with this moving forward since this was so successful for us. So I guess small silver lining from a pandemic is that we will learn to do an event a little bit differently and still be successful with it. Thank you all so much. I'm happy to be here and to have any help that I may have given you. Thanks. Have a great day.